All right, welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us as we continue our rolling coverage of the ANC's 54th National Elective Conference. Leanne is still out in Nasrec this morning. But just before we go back to Leanne, of course, following the election of Cyril Ramaphosa to the ANC presidency, we took to the streets to ask people how they feel about his election. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
We believe that God is in charge. When you ask for God, we need you to choose the right candidate. God will do that. So many people were praying for him. So we thank God.
After all, we needed a person that could sustain the image of SA. But we had no reputation anymore whatsoever. So he restored to us the dignity that was lost.
No, like in feel right. And then hope ukuthi Cyril uzoyenza into right esibamkhethile because ayibe singekho right mzumu usibulele asisebenzi namanje esihleli ekhaya. I think iku right nje lokho kwenzakala.
Mina ngalama results ngiwezwe a right kuke change nje kube omunye umuntu at least omunye umhlobo hayi ukuthi sikhalele nje ukuthi sikhalela kube iZulu Natal esifuna ukuthi ibuse at least khona manje kungcono ke sokubusa enye nation yabona.
Mina ngikho happy okuqala nje bekungcono ukuthi bafake at least 4 abobaba 4 abomama uyezwisisa and then bazokwazi ukushare ama ideas. So abobaba kwezinye izinto ba weak and bazonide i-guidance yabomama phela i-country akusiya abobaba kuphela i-country yabomama and siphila ku democracy.
All right, well, there you have it. Of course, we've also seen the voting of 80 additional NEC members taking place last night into the early hours of this morning. But let's just find out more as to how things are looking this morning. Leanne has all the details live from Nasrec. Lee, it's over to you.
Thanks very much, Pelesa. It was great listening to the feedback from South Africans and finding out how they feel about the election of Cyril Ramaphosa as ANC president. Well, there's that aerial view once again of the Expo Centre, and just giving you an idea of the vicinity of where we're broadcasting from and where the selective conference has been taking place. And you can see there are not too many people around this morning. But, one thing I can tell you is that we're on the absolute opposite side of where the delegates are. So the delegates are on, if you are much further away from us, we've been separated from them. So, there's a lot of activity there. There's food stalls, and there's also some amazing different places where you can buy clothes and ANC regalia, you name it, it's all there. It's almost like fan gear. It's wonderful. We saw the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, taking a walkabout yesterday, and at that time he was looking at some of the clothes and the things that were for sale there. I hope he made a purchase or two. I know he showed some interest, particularly in a white shirt. I was watching him picking it up about 3 or 4 times. I'm sure he can afford it. I hope he bought it. But what happened yesterday was also something that I think frightened journalists. We saw one of the journalists that was reporting, actually a couple of journalists, complaining that the treatment of journalists hasn't been up to scratch, and they felt that they were not treated well. One particular journalist, Sam Krukeli, he had his accreditation taken away because he wanted to come through a gate to get to the media section, but the VIP protection unit wouldn't let him through. And this, of course, led to a big scuffle, and this was very unfortunate. And there was then, of course, a big meeting and apologies and who knows. But it was just a little bit of a disappointing turn of events yesterday to see journalists not being treated in a good manner, because we're here to tell the story, and I do hope that that is the last event of its kind. Well, the overlay that you were seeing was that white shirt that I saw the president taking a look at. So let's continue our discussion here in studio with my 2 experts that are with us, Ongama Mtimka, who's been with us from 6 this morning, and of course we're joined now by Dr. Tiniko Maluleka. It's so nice to have you with us as well. Welcome.
Thank you.
I want to get your opinions. We were talking with Ongama a while ago, because I think the main event yesterday was really about those votes, those missing 68 or 63 votes. I don't know, I still think there's a discrepancy of exactly how many votes are there. But this vote could swing the position of Secretary General. Obviously, the ANC doesn't want this to end in court, but at the same time, they also don't want to rerun an elective conference. There's far too much to lose. Where does this leave them? Because the steering committee doesn't seem to be coming to a conclusion now.
Yeah, we hope they will give us, a little bit more direction today about those 68 votes. I think, the ANC has so far couched this conference in terms of unity. And even when the incoming president did walkabout yesterday, he couldn't finish 3 sentences without referring to unity.
Yeah.
And there is a price to be paid for unity, it seems to me. Because if you drive unity as a grand narrative, the way they have done, then you may forget about women. You may forget about 63, 68 votes. In other words, you can drive unity so hard that all the minor details that could be telling fall along the wayside. And I think this is what has happened. So will the ANC pursue the 63 votes, or will the 63 votes become unimportant in light of the dream and the push for unity?
The reality is, you talk about this unity. The first issue has arisen, and you've got these different parties now locked in a room trying to find a conclusion to one issue, and that being the issue of the votes. And it doesn't seem that this is very easy to come to, because these two sides differ so much that to almost reach a conclusion is somewhat of an impossibility. So this unity that everybody's talking about, I mean, this is the first sign of how difficult it is to work together. Would you like to comment on that, Ngam?
What complicates it even further is the vested interests of also Senzo Mchunu, who feels that justice must be done.
Yeah.
If he loses, he must lose. So there's a tension between the unity objective and also a sense of justice, that if there's unity, it must be done in a way that is just. So as far as he's concerned, there's also that dynamic, that because yesterday one of the key drivers actually for how far this is taken was the allegations that he himself was intent on taking the process to court personally if it is not resolved amicably.
Yeah, I'm seeing something coming through. It's a headline that I think the Business Day are running with, and I'm not, obviously we are not confirming this, but I'm looking at what it's on Business Day, saying that Senzo Mchunu actually emerged as the top candidate for Secretary General after the first count. But it was that big delay that happened that night. We were all sitting here, we were waiting. It was about a 2.5 hour delay until the results were again announced. But they were saying that NEC member Nomvula Mokonyane demanded a recount, and that's when the results turned around.
Yeah, you see, the question is, will Senzo Mchunu become a sacrificial lamb for unity? Will he be the person sacrificed on the altar of unity for the sake of unity?
Yeah.
And will Ace Mahashule be the price we pay for unity, as it were, from the other side? Those are the issues. Of course, technically, any single delegate, any one of the 63 or 68 delegates can go to court as an individual saying, I voted, my vote has not been counted. Just like Senzo can go and say, I think I should have won this. Ace can go to court saying, I had won it and it was taken away from me. So it's a very difficult one, but it's probably the last battle between the two camps, this issue.
Okay.
And I have a sense that after this issue, the camps will begin to disintegrate.
Yeah. You know, the reality is that a conference has never been contested outside of a conference. It's never gone to court before. But the problem is we've seen so many court cases within the ANC that has resulted, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
it's almost become somewhat of a trend. Could this be the very first time that something at this higher level, because this is a very important position, nobody can downplay that Secretary General position. It's almost like kind of Prime Minister, if one wants to give it another term. It's a vital position within the ANC. Can we see this being solved in the courts if the steering committee doesn't reach a compromise?
So I think, Leanne, let's look at the relationships between institutions and political actors here. So that the conferences, the previous national conferences, were never contested, talk much about the culture within the ANC of accepting even the malpractices that were done as part of the political process. But what the court cases have done, they have actually forced a change in the institutional arrangements between private political actors or their groups and the structures of the ANC and the relationship of the ANC constitution in that process. So, for example, now people have seen that it is possible, after having lost, take the conference to court and have a political resolution coming out of that, driven by a legal process, which is why throughout this conference there was very thorough attention to detail and wanting to do things right. Everybody was happy, and I agree with Prof. This was the last frontier, and it needed to be, managed well. Now, what politicizes this process for me is when the counting was done and Senzo Mchunu had won, was the 68 included? And if it then raises a political issue in what so far we have thought was an administrative process, that if there's a correlation between those 68 not being counted after Senzo had emerged victorious, then it makes that decision to be very much political. And I guess what Prof was saying, that it makes it to be an attempt to actually manufacture the unity.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll continue our discussion after this. Do stay tuned to Morning Live. If there are any questions that you'd like to pose, if there's anything that you want to know, or your comments, we really want to hear from you at Morning Live SABC. I know this is a talking point in South Africa, so please do get hold of us. We'll see you after the break. Stay tuned.